So many desires, or as many desires, so many blankets. Covering the radiance of the Spirit. We have to uncover to discover. We have to uncover, discover. We have to uncover, discover.
Welcome, everyone, to the Divine Discoveries podcast. This is Prat Pai, and unfortunately, we don't have Christiane with us, but Vikram is with us, and we are gathered here for a very, very special deity episode, since it's Shri Rama Navami, which is Lord Rama's birthday, which we're celebrating, and we're having this podcast to speak more about Lord Rama and understand his avatar as best as we can. And it's a lot we want to get to, so we'll go ahead and get started with the invocation prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Sarvamangalamaangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trayambake Devi Narayani Namostute. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatye Swaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mokshiyamamrutat. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha. Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrusham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Birthyanagam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham. Om Apadam Apahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Shri Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
It's really a special day. It's a day of great celebration, and we look forward to diving into that. But before that, we wanted to take this opportunity to thank our listeners for continuing to support us and sharing their feedback. And if you are listening in for the first time, I did want to share that you can engage with us in several different ways. We have a Facebook page called Divine Discoveries. Our Instagram is divine_discoveries_108. If you have any feedback or comments, you can also email us at divinediscoveries108@gmail.com. And we also have a WhatsApp channel called the Divine Discoveries Podcast. So you can find all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. So please continue to listen, share with your friends and family, and continue to share your feedback with us.
So, Vikram, we have one of the most endearing deities that we're going to speak about today, that everybody loves and gains inspiration from, and that is Bhagavan Ram. So we're so blessed to be doing this podcast on the very day of the actual Ram Navami. So there's nothing that can be better than that, I feel. Our first segment will be going a little in depth into or understanding the common shlokas that are centered around Lord Ram, that are dedicated to him from different shastras and sacred texts. So there's a very interesting story. So I'm going to recite this mantra, and then I'll tell you guys the story that's tied into that shloka. So it goes, Om Shri Ram Ram Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. Lord Shiva was, had some time away from his tapasya that he normally does, and he wanted to spend some time with Parvati. And Parvati said, I am doing the Vishnu Sahasranam, which is the 1,000 names of Vishnu. And she said, that will take me a long time. So, my Lord, I may not be able to do that until I'm completed doing the Vishnu Sahasranam. So Lord Shiva says that, my dear Parvati, the equivalent of doing the 1,000 names of Vishnu or the Vishnu Sahasranam is chanting Lord Rama's name 3 times. So that's the meaning, that's the underlying story with tied into the shloka I just recited. And from that came the Taraka mantra. The Taraka mantra means, Taraka means the one that takes us across the ocean of samsara, or of the ocean of life, which involves obviously the duality and so much unhappiness and misery and all that we face. And so this Rama Nam is supposed to help strengthen our hearts and our minds and make us determined to face the onslaught of challenges that we have in life. So that Taraka mantra is Om Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. People can do japa on the beads, or they can even write Om Shri Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. There are many people who come to Rama temples or Hanuman temples and have books, composition notebooks, completely filled out with Om Shri Rama Jaya Jaya Rama, and they go and put it in this kind of like box that they have dedicated for Ramanama books, which then will be somewhere, installed near or kept near the deity or something. So it's like a seva offering that people can do who are Ram Bhakts. So, but the name of Rama 3 times is equivalent to the 1,000 names of Vishnu. Amazing. Then another shloka which I did say during the introduction or the invocation is Apadam apahartaram dataram sarva sampadam lokabhiramam Shri Ramam bhuyo bhuyo namamyaham. So that means the remover of distresses, the granter of all prosperity, that Lord of the universe, Shri Rama, I salute thee again and again. And then there's another one, short one. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. So it means salutations to Lord Rama, who is known as Ramachandra or Ramabhadra, who is mentioned in the Vedas as the greatest lord of Raghuvansh, or the Raghu clan, or also the solar race, and the whole world, and who is the consort of Sita. I salute that Rama who is benevolent and peaceful as the moon, and who is the Lord of Sita and the master of and guardian of all. So with that, I conclude the short mantras, chants, shlokas that we have dedicated to Lord Rama. There are many dedicated to each deity, as we know, but these are some short ones that we have that we often hear recited, and those are the meanings that I wanted to share.
Thanks, Prat. That was incredibly insightful, and again, I can't stress enough how exciting it is to celebrate Ram Navami and to actually record this episode on the day itself. I mean, how auspicious is
Absolutely.
that?
I know it's divine grace. I mean, stars aligned. That's all I can say. So Vikram, I actually wanted to talk about the Ramayan. People often wonder, if they have to read the Ramayana, like which is the, there's so many different versions of them and different adaptations and transliterations and all that stuff. But I want people to know what the original Ramayan is.
That was the Valmiki Ramayan. The Valmiki Ramayan is the original version. in Sanskrit. As Pratt mentioned, the Ramayana has been written in many different languages across India and even beyond India's shores. I think before I mention a little bit about them, I think it's important to state that the Ramayan, which is quite simply the story of Shri Ram and his journey through his avatar, it's a story that probably, no matter how many times you interpret it, whether it be written, whether it be visual, whether it be theatrical, it's never enough. And you always find different nuances in every version that you read or witness. So even though it's written in every language, it's also testament that how much each of the followers of all these languages can take away and can interpret it and can share with the rest of the world. And there's probably the ability to share even beyond these foundational Ramayans. But Valmiki Ramayan is the original one in Sanskrit. There's Ramcharitmanas by Sri Tulsidas Ji, which is in Hindi. There's a Tamil version, Kamba Ramayan, Telugu version, Sri Ranganath Ramayan. There's even an Urdu version, which is the Chakbast Ramayan.
Wow.
And there's Malayalam version as well, Bengali version also.
Kritivas, I think.
Kritivas, that's correct. Kritivas Ramayan. And, when you read all of these, they're generally the same, but there are different incidents that happen in some of them. And that's why, if you watch Ramanand Sagar's original Ramayan, it actually includes things from all of these within the narrative. So some people are under the impression that perhaps that show is only an interpretation of the Valmiki Ramayan or the Tulsidas Ramayan, but it actually brings all of these elements together. And so it makes it fascinating because for people that closely follow one particular one, when they hear about the other one, there's just things that they had no idea about. And it's fascinating to learn about that. The other thing that I'd point out, especially when it comes to the Sanskrit version of Ramayan and the Tulsidas version of Ramayan, is the way that the character of Shri Ram is presented. So in Valmiki's Ramayan, Shri Ram is shown more so as a pious human being who follows dharma, and it's his dharma which helps him triumph through all of the challenges he faces through his life. And the message there is that if you follow dharma, if you do the right thing, if you do good, yes, difficulties will come, but you can even defeat someone as mega powerful as Ravan and get to where you need to get to. In Tulsidas's version, that is the more divine interpretation of Shri Ram, which is that Shri Ram is God, but within the avatar, within the boundaries of what a human can do, Shri Ram is showing to mankind how a human should be. So he is God, but he's establishing that foundation of what ideal human being should be like, what a virtuous human being should be like. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about the different Ramayans out there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vikram. It's amazing that I actually had some really close friends that went to Indonesia, Bali, and that part of the world, and they have Ramayan shows there, where they're dancing and they have their own unique, like ethnic dressing style, but they're essentially singing and dancing the Ramayan, like their own version of Ram Leela, if you will, which is pretty amazing. Really how much of an impact the Ramayana has had in different regions of the world, and how even different religions have their own belief in the Ramayana, their own connection with the Ramayana.
Absolutely. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because my parents recently went on a trip to Cambodia and Thailand. And I'm not sure if it was Cambodia or Thailand where they saw this, but they did go to a Ram Mandir there. And what's really fascinating is that the locals there actually don't believe that Sri Ram was Indian. They actually believe that originates over there, which is the Shraddha is strong even there. So it's a very fascinating tidbit. But you're right. I mean, the influence is not only in India; it is all over Southeast Asia also.
Wow.
And you mentioned that it goes across other religions, so that's another interesting point because if you look at Buddhism and you look at Jainism, in Buddhism, there's a lot of parallels between, the Buddha avatar and Shri Ram as well, insofar as both of them were princes, virtuous princes, and both of them had some element of renunciation in their life.
Yeah,
whereas Gautam Buddha, he gave up everything. Shri Ram maintained the Kshatriya piece of it, but he had the 14-year exile. And same with Mahavir. Mahavir in Jainism also renounced everything. And even if you look at Buddhism, as far as I recall, in Theravada Buddhism, the Ramayana has been a big influence. And there's something in there called the Dashrath, and pardon my pronunciation, it's called the Dashrath Jataka. And it's a very famous Buddhist text that retells Sri Ram's story. And there are scholars that actually say that it is an early version of that story. So that is that is particularly interesting to know about. So I think it's the ideal and foundation of Sri Ram that really has an influence everywhere.
Yeah, incredible. Going back to the Valmiki Ramayan, the original one, and the reason we want to stress that that's the most authentic one and the most original one, and I would say if anybody can get their hands on a copy of it, I would definitely read that, because Sage Valmiki was actually a integral part of the Ramayana. He actually played a role during the story. You can't get more authentic than that. I'd actually like to talk, Vikram, about the inspiration that Sage Valmiki got. He was a materialist before that. I think he was just a hunter or a robber or something like that. And somewhere I think he realized, or there's something where he felt very impacted and guilty about what he was doing in life. And I think that's when Sage Narada, who has always been this key figure in all the different Puranic stories, where somebody's looking towards betterment and maybe finding truth in their life or seeking out God. And Sage Narada is that celestial devotee of Lord Vishnu who is always singing Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. He's traversing the globe and or all the lokas, and he comes to that devotee at the right time to inspire them to seek God. Then Sage Narada tells him, you are a great being and you have realized that, you have some higher purpose. So let me inspire you. So why don't you meditate on this chant of Lord Rama? So he actually tells him to chant Ramanam. And he's so sinful that his tongue cannot even say the Ram Nam. He can't say Rama. Can you imagine that? It's so easy for us to say, and thank God we have the ability to say it because we're supposed to say it as much as we can in the Kali Yuga. But back then in the Treta Yuga, he couldn't say the name Rama. So Narada told him, reverse it and say Mara. and then he was able to recite the word Mara. So when you say Mara, continuously, it turns into a chant of Ram. So Mara, 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 Mara. So now you can hear Rama in that. So that's how he developed the ability to say Ram, and he was blessed from that. And he took up, at that point, he realized that he had a higher purpose, and he became the sagely being. He went deep into spiritual seeking. And once again, at a certain point when he was, he became very poetic. He's considered the Adi Kavi, which means the very first poet probably ever known to mankind, is sage Valmiki. And he had this desire in his heart that he wanted to write poetic verses on the most perfect, ideal human being. Who is out there who I can write about? And he wasn't quite getting the answer. And once again, Sage Narada comes to him, and they have the conversation, and he says, "Oh, Sage Narada, I'm very inspired to write poetry, and I want to write that poetry and dedicate it to somebody who's a great character and great valor, and who stands for all the right things, and who's very dharmic in nature and everything, right?" And so he describes all these characteristics, but then he still can't pinpoint who is that character that I want to write about. And that's when Sage Narada says, such a being exists on this earth right now. And that is Lord Ramachandra, who's the king of Ayodhya. So that's where the Ramayan, scripting of the Ramayan begins.
Absolutely. And I didn't know a lot of that. So that's really interesting to hear. So, Shri Ram is a character that, we established as someone who follows Dharma very religiously, very deeply. But the story of Ramayana in general is also one filled with compassion. There's many incidents throughout where the beauty of humanity, the beauty of compassion comes out. And on this point of Shri Valmiki, the story of Ramayana did come from him through compassion. And what happened was after this meeting with Narad, he went to bathe in the river that was near his cottage, and he saw two conch birds, as they're called. I'm not really sure
Pelicans,
if that's
pelicans, maybe.
Pelicans, maybe pelicans, or and he saw them, and there was a male and a female, and they were in love. And then at that moment, a hunter came and killed the male conch, and the female conch was devastated, and she also died on the spot because she felt she had no purpose to live anymore. Her love of her life is gone. And Valmiki saw this, and in a fit of emotion and a fit of anger, he cursed the hunter to never ever feel peace again in his life. And then when he got home, Valmiki was troubled. He said that, I acted emotionally and I cursed this hunter so horribly. And Brahmaji came and said, but you have recited kind of one of the first Sanskrit poetic verses. And it was after that kind of realization that eventually Valmiki was able to write the Ramayana, because he figured out the rhythm of how to do it. So the story of Ramayana comes from a place of compassion as well. And of course, that's sprinkled throughout the tale where your eyes well up. So,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, the Valmiki Ramayana is broken up into several chapters, or I should say mega chapters, or cantos as they're called, big books that are within the book, and those super chapters are, so the chapters are called kandas or cantos. Most of you who know the story, I'm not trying to necessarily, we're not going to go in depth into the story, obviously, because we have limited time, but we're going to kind of just journey through these books and just touch a little bit on each kand. And the first one is called Balakanda, which covers Sri Ram's, before even Sri Ram's birth, what led up to his avatar coming into being. And he has three mothers. His actual mother's name is Kaushalya, and his stepmothers Kaikeyi and Sumitra. And his father's name is Maharaja Dashrath, who ruled over Ayodhya, that represents the solar race, and the Raghuvansh is what it's called. So Lord Rama, for him to even appear on the earth, Maharaja Dashrath had to do a very special sacrifice called Putra Kameshti Yagya, because he didn't have any successors. So ultimately, the fire god Agni Dev appears and gives this porridge, which is split up between the queens, the three queens, and each one of the queens, Kaikeyi and Kaushalya, actually gives a little portion of theirs to Sumitra, who ultimately has twins. So Mata Kaushalya has Bhagavan Ram, then Bharat is born to Kaikeyi Mata, and then Sumitra Mata has Lakshman ji and Shatrughan ji born to her. So, and so the Balakand speaks about Lord Ram and his brothers growing up, going to the Gurukul, like as if they're Brahmins, they go and get the same kind of education. And this is one of the qualities of Lord Ram, that from the time he is young till the time he is, even when he's in the forest, when he's banished or exiled, and even later on after he becomes king, he's always doing something based on the wisdom given by a guru or a rishi or sage. Brahmarishi Vashisht is his royal sage, so he always took advice from him before he did anything in terms of governing Ayodhya later on after he became king. But he always was a student, always inquisitive to learn. And I think that's a great lesson for us, Vikram, that we should never shy away from asking questions, and we should seek those answers from the right people. And I feel like Ram was always displaying his interest in learning, which is a great example for all of us today.
Absolutely. And and he was such a diligent student also, that even his gurus were completely in awe of him as a student.
Right.
Someone who coming from that background, but someone who submitted himself completely to the life in the ashram, for instance, taking care of his brothers, taking care of Guru Mata, taking care of Guru. I mean, I remember this one particular moment. This is not directly related to education, but just to kind of put into perspective what he was like even as a child. He in Ramayan, in the series, his brothers are not able to sleep because they miss their mothers, and so he decides to try and soothe them, and act as as their mother as well. No, but he had that in him even at such a young age, to be there for his brothers and be there for others also.
Mm-hmm. And so the Balakand, I think spans up until Lord Ram goes to Mithila. So a lot happens in this, after he comes back from his education phase, and then he comes back to the kingdom of Ayodhya, and then he goes at the request of sage Vishwamitra to accomplish some tasks of getting rid of evil forces and all that stuff. So ultimately he lands up in Mithila, where he meets Mahalakshmi, who has incarnated as Mata Sita, and in her Swayamvar, which is a very interesting situation, where Janak Maharaj, Sita Devi's father, has put this interesting stipulation that our daughter will marry the one who can lift this bow that is constructed for Lord Shiva. So it's called Shiva Dhanush. and that Shiva Dhanush has to be lifted up, which was nearly impossible for anybody to do. And there are some stories that say that even Ravan was part of that. He was also participating in that contest, and even he had immense trouble doing so. So that's when Lord Ram, interesting story is that, of course, Lord Ram is the one who does not just lift the bow, but strings it and also breaks it into half, which dispels any doubt that this is a superhuman, definitely a divine incarnation. But I found this interesting, Vikram, is that when we spoke about avatars last time, that the avatar that preceded Rama was Sage Parashurama, Rama with the hatchet, Bhargava Rama as he's called. So that Parashurama and Shri Rama faced each other. What an incredible, so that shows that God can appear in multiple forms and even come face to face with himself. A confrontational meeting. It's not like a peaceful meeting between the two, right? Parashuram acted like he was distraught because he was a Shiva Bhakt and his ideal Lord's bow had been broken. And he was there to find out who dared do that, and because the whole earth shook at that point. And he, so he wanted to confront the one who did this. And even in the beginning, when they're arguing, he doesn't realize that this new avatar is here now. And, it takes a while. And I think that all of that is a divine Leela. It's a play.
Yeah, and that particular incident, so one that marked the end of the Parshuram avatar officially, but also it's interesting because if I'm not mistaken, the Parshuram avatar, after destroying the Kshatriya race for 21 times, something like that, that avatar had also gained a little bit of arrogance. And that avatar's meeting of Shri Ram, even that was completely broken up. Because Shri Ram handled the situation so calmly, so, humility personified.
Mm-hmm. So after this, though, is the second canto begins, and that's the Ayodhya Kand, right? And that's when their marriage takes place, and they're back in Ayodhya, and now he's about to be coronated by, he's very popularly loved, and public demand is that the successor should be Lord Ram. And being the eldest, I think he was already a shoo-in for that, but then his character also matched that. His character was of perfect idealism. So no flaws at all. So everybody was joyous, happy about this coronation that's going to happen. It was announced, and that's when, the unfortunate forces of destiny, or whatever you want to say, the unfortunate situation arises that, he's to be banished into exile because of a promise that his stepmother requested from his father Dashrath Maharaj. And this started sort of like, from a viewer's perspective, this is like, oh man, this can't be happening to somebody so perfect, so wonderful. Lord Ram has to be the king, and that's how everybody wants the story to be perfect. But of course, there's always going to be some challenges and disappointments, like we see in films and all that. So every story has its moments where there's despair and there's disappointment. So this was one of those moments, in the Ayodhya Kand, which leads then into the Aranya Kand, because once they've accepted, and Ram very gracefully accepts Vanvas, which is called the exile, for 14 years, while his brother Bharat is to be replacing him as the king to be. And of course, Bharat is not there at the time. So once he comes back and comes to know that his brother has been exiled, and Maharaja Dashrath, who absolutely did not want this to happen, but unfortunately had to accept the fact that he had given his word. And this was the one thing about this time period and the lineage, the solar race, is that they have a saying that says, Raghukul riti sada chali ai prana jai par vachan na jai. That means in the Raghukul, in the solar race, our promise is like our life. If we go wrong on our promise, or if we break our promise, then it's as equivalent as us dying. So they try to protect their promise as much as possible. And ultimately, Lord Ram said, my dad has given my mom this promise, so I have to honor that. And there's a lot that happens in this, so you all should read and watch the Ramayana to see all the inner stories and how Ram shows himself as the loving, ideal brother, son, just a citizen of his country, and upholding the king's promise. Because he said, if the king goes back on his promise, goes back on his word, then how will anybody trust him? And the same thing applied when he became king later on in Uttarakhand. But so Aranyakand is when they are now banished and they're going into the forest, and they go to Chitrakoot, and then they go to Dandakaranya from there, and they destroy a lot of the demons who are terrorizing the sages. During that Aranyakand is when the other unfortunate incident happens where Mother Sita is abducted by the supremely powerful and knowledgeable king named Ravana, who unfortunately had two bad qualities. One, he had to have everything that was the best in the world. So Sita was considered the most beautiful. So when he was told that, hey, there's a beautiful woman out there who, by his sister Shurpanaka, for those of you who know the story, I don't want to get too far into it, but ultimately, when Ravan came to know that Ram, Lakshman, and Sita are in the forest, and Sita is the most beautiful woman, he said, oh, I must have her as my queen. So that lust, the greed, and the arrogance which he had, that, I'm the ruler of the world. I'm like God. So at that point, he comes up with a plan ultimately to kidnap Sita. So, and he successfully is able to do so. And that's what sets the stage for ultimately his destruction. And then the Aranyakand, after the abduction of Sita, leads to the Kishkinda Kand, where Lord Ram and Lakshman are now going through the forests and trying to find their way to find clues to where Sita might be held captive. They don't know. They don't know. They're acting like like bewildered human beings who are really looking for something valuable that they've lost. And Ram's love is on display here because at many times he is in despair. And Lakshman has to talk him off the ledge, which is interesting, Vikram.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's after Sita's kidnapping, Ma Sita's kidnapping, is when we actually see Shri Ram at more of an emotional state than we do otherwise. Because most of the time he's pretty even-keeled. Mm-hmm. But, it's during this time where we see some more shades to him. The despair, like you mentioned, of when she's gone. Then there's the incident which comes a little later where he loses his temper on Samudra Dev because Samudra Dev is not helping him figure out a solution to cross the ocean to get to Lanka and defeat Ravan. But then at the same time, we see many shades of his compassion where, during one of, I think, his first battle with Ravan, he defeats Ravan, but he doesn't kill him then. He says, look, you've lost all your Astra Shastra, and I don't attack anyone who is unharmed. So go back,
right.
So
another great virtue, right?
Another great virtue, and such is Shri Ram's power that even when Ravan dies, the last thing he utters when he's dying is Shri Ram.
Yes.
Which is something he knew all along. He just never, admitted it.
And one interesting tidbit here is that even when he was dying, before he actually died, and they didn't show this in the Ramayana, but I heard in, I don't know if it's I think it may be in the Valmiki Ramayana, but there's a little sub story there that Ram wanted Lakshman to hear some great ethical and governing advice from Ravan, because he considered Ravan to be this great, knowledgeable being. And he respected that about even his opponent, even the one who abducted his wife, So he gave him that respect and said, please learn this great wisdom from him before he passes away, before he dies.
Absolutely.
So who does that?
Absolutely. And, the other, kind of quick thing I'll mention about Shri Ram is, the bhakts that he had, of course there's Shri Hanumanji, and we could do an entire thing on Shri Hanumanji.
So, and we will.
We will. Yeah. But, the case of Mata Shabari, who was waiting her whole life, and if I'm not mistaken, Pat, I think at that time the caste system was prevalent, right? And I think she was considered of being of lower caste, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But she waited her whole life to find moksha from meeting Shri Ram, and when she finally came, the whole sweet incident of her taking a bite out of the bear and giving it to him, and he was eating the jute bear.
Yeah, right.
And then even the incident of when the berries, even the incident of when Shri Ram was a child, and Kak Bashundi, couldn't believe that this child was Ram. He went to see him.
He couldn't believe this was God. This was
God. Yeah, sorry, this was God. Sorry, And I think he took his roti. Baby Ram was eating roti. He took the roti and he flew away. But then when he was flying, baby Shri Ram was right behind him. And then he realized that this is the Lord, and Shri Ram blessed him with eternal bhakti.
Absolutely.
So such beautiful shades in the illustrious avatar of Shri Ram. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just going back to the Kishkinda Kand, that's where he meets Maharaj Sugriv, who is the, he and his brother Bali are the ones who are presiding over the kingdom called Kishkinda. And this is where Shabari, once he meets Mata Shabari, she gives him this roadmap, so to speak, to go to Kishkinda and meet with Maharaj Sugriv, and tells Lord Ram that one of your greatest devotees, Sri Hanuman, will be happy to meet with you. So that's when they meet, and there's a lot of interesting sub-stories there, but I cannot get into it, unfortunately, today. But ultimately, Ram helps Sugriv defeat his older brother Bali, who wrongfully takes the kingdom away from him, and ultimately, once he becomes the king, he pledges his allegiance to Lord Rama to seek out Mother Sita and destroy the evil forces of Ravana. So from the Kishkinda Kand comes the Sundar Kand, where Lord Hanuman plays a very, very important role. He realizes his own powers during the Sundar Kand, and he is the only one among all the clan of monkeys that can fly across the ocean the distance that he had to go, which was vast, and he had to get across that ocean, and ultimately he found Mother Sita. He got blessed by Mother Sita, and Mother Sita, look at her idealism. She said, even though I can go with you, I am not going to do that. Hanuman offers to take her back, to rescue her right then and there. But she says, no, I want my husband to come and rescue me. So Mother Sita also compliments Lord Rama so well. And Hanuman brings back that wonderful message that Mother Sita, I met her. I instilled some courage in her and said, we will be there. And they march towards Lanka, and after the Sundar Kand comes the Lanka Kand. So they build the bridge, which NASA has also found now to be the Ram Setu, and there's been movies made on it also now. So the Ram Setu is modern science has also found through their instruments the proof of that. So that vast bridge was formed. They marched across. They went into Lanka, and ultimately, good triumphs over evil. Dharma always triumphs over adharma. So the forces of Ravana and his sons, while they did put up somewhat of a fight, but ultimately Ram, Lakshman, Sugriv, Hanuman, and their entire clan defeats the evil forces of Ravana. And one of his main purposes of this avatar comes to fruition after that. We will end on the Uttarakhand, but we have three very special guests with us who recently had a very, very blessed trip to India during the time period of the Mahakumbh Mela, and they also made their way to Ayodhya, the birthplace, the sacred land of where Lord Rama was born and ruled for many, many years. And this Ram Mandir, Shri Ram Mandir, that has been opened or inaugurated in, I believe, January of 2024. So it was after the 1-year anniversary. So we have with us Maya Kini.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. And Suchitra Balasubramaniam.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. And we have Rekha Pai.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram. So just a brief introduction about each one of our guests today. So Maya is an engineer working for a defense company. She lives in Virginia with her wonderful husband of 33 years of marriage. Congratulations. And 2 boys who are ages 28 and 25. She's originally from Manipal, Karnataka, India. She's embraced the best of both worlds, both regions of the world, staying connected to my roots while exploring new opportunities and experiences in the US. And outside of her professional life, she enjoys spending time with her family and friends and loves to socialize. Traveling is a big part of her life, and she cherishes any opportunity to explore new cultures and places. When she's home, she loves to dance to Bollywood music and enjoys listening to a good podcast every now and then. I hope we will be added to that list somehow.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. And that keeps her entertained and inspired. So she says life is beautiful blend of work, family, and fun, and she strives to make the most of every moment. How wonderful.
Thank you.
And we have Suchitra ji, who's joining us by profession. She is a financial analyst living in Virginia as well. Originally, she's from Mumbai, India. She loves reading fiction and thriller books and loves to gain knowledge about various countries and traveling, and seeks out traveling opportunities to those countries. She loves to explore new places, cultures, food, and travel. It's just like Maya, traveling is a big part of her life. She believes that India is a place like no other in the world, and in her bucket list includes traveling to every state in India. Wow, that's wonderful. So she says the Mahakumbh and Ayodhya visit in the beginning of a long and never-ending quest to see the rest of India was really one of the highlights of her life. So, and then we have lastly with us Rekha Pai ji. So she lives in Bethesda, Maryland, with her loving family, husband of 35 years, congratulations, and her 2 daughters. She's originally from Bangalore, India. Over the years, she's worked in IT, the legal field, and other industries, also the federal government and private sector. Besides family and professional life, her interest is in hiking and traveling, which I'm glad that you all 3 have that in common, and that must have factored into you all banding together to go on this wonderful trip. So traveling with family and friends has made her see and understand many cultures and their ancient texts from around the world. But coming back full circle, what truly has excited her is exploring Indian culture. She says she has gained a deep love for Indian temple architecture, astrology, exploring stars through Indian astronomy, dance, and art forms, and studying ancient Indian scriptures. Traveling through UP, Uttar Pradesh, and attending the Kumbh Mela felt like a beautiful way to connect with my passions and learn even more. So wonderful to read and to learn about the three of you personally, and to have all three of you join us today to mainly delve into the wonderful experience I'm sure you all had when you visited the Shri Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, especially after it's, very soon after it opened. So it's still a very, very new temple, and I'm sure hordes of people come there. So the first question I have is, and this is, all of you can provide your answers, whoever wants to answer to these questions, but I'll start off. So there are so many beautiful temples with unique architecture. So when it comes to that, like, this is now the new addition. And of course, it's so special because it took hundreds of years for it to be rebuilt. And for, it was tied up into litigation. And there were so many challenges that the Indian government faced. But there was always this continuous, effort to get this Ram Mandir rebuilt where it belongs. So what was it about this Shri Ram Mandir that you would say sets it apart, not just because it's the newest and the most popular one to visit, but what would you say would set it apart from the others that you've visited?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. So basically, there are, like you said, there are several amazing ancient temples all over India, and I'm going to go deeper into, why Ram Mandir is apart from those temples is because of the history, like you said, behind the build and existence. So, like we all know, Ayodhya is a place where Bhagavan Shri Ram was born and where he spent most of his life and is considered Ram Janmabhoomi by all of us. Quick history, but when India was invaded and then ruled by Mughals, it was Ram Mandir was believed to be demolished in the 1500s, and a masjid was built above Ram Mandir to show Mughal supremacy. So, what sets it apart is definitely the architecture and the idol itself. This is probably the only Ram Mandir where you can see Ram Lalla, which is like Sri Ram as a boy. Whereas everywhere else you would see every other Mandir you would see like Bhagwan Ram, Mata Sita, Lakshmana, and Hanumanji. So this is probably the only place where you see, Ram Lalla and a black vigraham at that. So that is very unique. The architecture is very unique. I mean, even though it's only 1 year old, they have, from the pictures and everything, and of course after we visited, I mean, it's an amazing piece of architecture, and that probably sets it apart, and also another piece of history that has really impacted me is in the 80s and 90s when I was in college. They had this big, huge, movement, like, where 150,000 Hindu car sevaks went into Ayodhya and the mandir was demolished. And then, of course, you have your litigation and everything else that came with that. But then, after almost about 22 years rather, we have a mandir there. So it's not just the physical aspect of the temple being there, which is impressive, but then the amount of history, behind it, and not like ancient history. It's just like, past 25 years history. I mean, like, that I feel makes it more impressive. So
Yeah, I completely agree with the unique aspect of this temple that you mentioned about the image of Lord Ram. The Ram Lalla statue is very unique. And like you said, we don't have the supporting cast of Ram there like you see in most temples. So that was a great point. And I think it's really reinvigorated Ram Bhakti and Sanatan Dharma in all the citizens of India who the Sanatan Dharma is really roaring right now. So it's really
Definitely, definitely. And we could feel that. I mean, we had gone there during Kumbh Mela time, and a lot of, I would say hundreds of thousands of people were there when we were there. There was so much energy in the area, just with everybody around, and everybody chanting Jai Shri Ram, and Hanumanji ki Jai, or whatever it is that
Right.
they felt like it. So there was a lot of that, and Kumbh Mela just enhanced the, experience of Ram Janmabhoomi, if I can say that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'll add a couple points to
Sure.
that. For me, one of the things going to Ayodhya was, how the past couple years they have been building upon who is the sculptor, where did the rock come from, how the bell was made, the small details, and most of it all came from my part of the state, Karnataka, and that was one of the things I wanted to go see now. Now that the rock is from, it's like, what did they say, 2.5 billion year old black granite rock. Now I want to see how the Ram Lalla is. And one more other point is that this Rama was born in Treta Yuga. And now we are here seeing the same place, the same Sarayu river. And that's, you kind of.
It gives you goosebumps.
Yes.
Surreal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very surreal, yes.
Yeah, to hear from you about your experience going there is something that certainly inspires us and inspires all our listeners to try and do the same thing soon. So, for folks that are thinking about making this journey to Ayodhya, I was curious to hear from you about any advice that you have for anyone that wants to visit the temple. And on that same token, are there other temples or attractions that you enjoyed in Ayodhya in addition to the Shri Ram Mandir?
Yeah, I can take this question. Actually, for people visiting Ram Mandir Ayodhya, I do have some tips and some recommendations. I wouldn't call it advice, so that their trip they can make the most of their trip. So trip number one would be, how do you travel to Ayodhya? So if you're like us traveling from Delhi to Ayodhya, you have 4 modes of transportation. You have the plane, the train, the bus, and the car. Of course, because we went during Kumbh Mela time, it was busy, and trains and planes were all booked. So we took the car recommended by a friend with a driver reliable. So highly recommend a reliable driver. And also, please download Google Maps on your phone and take chargers and power banks and all of this, because it's very useful. Without Google Maps, it is very hard to, go from place to place in Ayodhya. And it is, Ayodhya, the Google Maps will give you alternate routes, because you will face road closures during busy times. So those alternate routes are scenic and beautiful. It will add to your travel time, but it's well worth it, because you will not have the hassle of sitting in traffic. So highly recommend that. And tip number 2 is plan ahead. They have an official website. So book your, darshan time, your aratis, of that website. Check the timing, see if it's extended, because during peak seasons, they extend the time of start and they extend the time of closing. So we were lucky, we got an extended hour at the end of the day. So we picked the Shayan Arati, which we were not prepared for, because, we went with the mental the thought that we will not be able to see Lalla because we are not booked early. So we had no option, and maybe we'll just enjoy Ayodhya, see the temple from outside and come back. But lucky for us, there was an official, office at the campsite. So we went inside, physically booked the Shayan Arati, which we didn't have to pay. Everything is free of cost. All you need is to provide a photo ID and they'll give you a pass. So at this point, you would say, Shayan Arati, what is that? It is the most beautiful Arati that I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It is that moment when I stepped into the temple and got the darshan of the deity very close for like few seconds. I can only, you can only experience that. It gives me goosebumps talking about it today, because it was such a blissful experience. Only can be experienced. It cannot be expressed in words. So I would highly recommend the Shayan Arati, which is the last Arati of the day, after which Ram Lalla goes to bed. So, tip number 3, you have your pass now. So, but, we had heard, okay, standing in lines can be very long. It's not safe, pickpocketing, snatching of chains, and all kinds of stampede, maybe pushing and pulling is to be expected. So we were a little apprehensive to start with. But going there, our experience was just the opposite. We enjoyed the crowds. The chanting of Jai Shri Ram was a vibe. It was an energy we enjoyed. We ourselves chanted Jai Shri Ram, walked through the lines. There was methodical way of walking, and we reached, the temple square. So coming to security, what do you do? So there are security guards who are dressed in uniforms, standing every few meters. So when in doubt, go to them, ask the question. Very knowledgeable, very helpful, very polite, and very patient. So they will answer your question. So what question we asked security guard? Yes, this is important because the lines to go to the mandir are really, really long. Could take about 6 hours to reach the temple and to get a darshan. So in our head, we said, are there other options? Let's ask the security guard. And yes, there was another option. He said, if you have a valid passport, that is international passport, foreign passport, you have an NRI line. So we, from being from the US, had a US passport, stood in the NRI line, and there were security checks, maybe 6 of them before we could enter the temple. And at each point, they stopped us, looked at the passports, looked at your phones, look at your bags. So take minimalistic approach. They don't take big bags, dress modestly. It's a cultural site. So we wore cotton saris and enjoyed the experience. There was no trouble at all. So tip number 5 is, you have to respect the local culture. So beyond a point, you don't have to wear footwear. So please make sure of that. Beyond a point, you're not allowed to take pictures. Be sure of that. And common sense says, do not talk loudly inside the temple. So all of this, if you follow, it'll be a beautiful experience. Don't worry about losing your shoes. They do have a booth there. They'll give you a token, collect your shoes, and upon finishing your darshan, you can go collect your shoes safe. No problem. And it's very well organized. If you want to take some prasadam, there's a different booth. If you want to donate your money, there's a different booth. Now, local accommodation, great place, has beautiful hotels. Do not go for budget guest house. The hotel experience is beautiful. I would say stay in a hotel. And, eateries, it's a great place that offers traditional food. Be aware of hygiene, but I can give you some great examples of great food. Like when it comes to drinks, I would pick the sweet lassi, garnished with dry fruits and malai. And for main entree, you should go for the parathas because North India is the greatest variety. And then when it comes to desserts, I would highly, highly recommend the dahi jalebi. It was my first experience. We loved it. It was amazing, So do try that. And, do carry cash in the local currency, small denominations, because, you can put it in the hundi as your donation. You could also buy things. Street shopping is, you're in heaven. You will love it. And then, everything you buy and take is small denominations, the food and everything. So I would recommend that. And lastly, be prepared for the weather in Ayodhya because it can get really hot. The summers, so you carry a bottle of water, wear some sunscreen, and dress very lightly, breathable. And in winter, it can get chilly in the evening. So I would recommend carrying some warm clothes. So I hope all of these tips helped and you will have a great experience just like we did. Highly recommend Ayodhya.
Yeah, and everything is free because a lot of people think that you have to go there, you have to pay money. I mean, for the entrance ticket, oh, there is a special line. You have to pay just like other temples, like 250, 500 or whatever it is. But no, everything is free. You don't have to, pay a rupee to get anything done. So that's yeah.
Also, I would like to add one more point, Prat, here. The temple by night and the temple by day is 2 different experiences. Temple by night is stunning. It's under moonlight, especially we went during close to Purnima. So it was beautiful with the lighting. It's still under renovation though, but it was a beautiful temple for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like it's, going to Ayodhya is not only food for the soul, but food for the stomach as well. So thank you for sharing that.
And these handy tips are really going to be helpful to our listeners who I'm sure if they haven't visited already, it's on their bucket list. And after listening to this, if it wasn't on their bucket list, it will be on their bucket list. So I hope these handy tips will definitely aid our listeners who intend to visit Ayodhya. So, the trip that you 3 were part of, and there may have been more in your group, but it seems like you went with the intention of getting in touch with your spiritual selves side, and really, attending such a rare event like the Mahakumbh Mela, and also clubbing that with the Ayodhya trip to visit the Shri Ram Mandir. I mean, what we already heard, like what you all enjoyed physically being there and what you heard and everything. But what did it do for each of you mentally and spiritually? How do you feel like it impacted you? And when before you went and after you came back, how do you feel you have changed as a person, if at all?
Maybe I'll take the first go here.
Sure.
Visiting the Kumbh Mela and Ayodhya, truly it is both mentally and spiritually uplifting. Witnessing the sheer scale of people gathered, the number of devotees, the depth of their devotion, faith, belief, truly mind-boggling, totally mind-boggling. And you see these older people, the young people, the older people were barefoot walking miles and miles together, either for Ayodhya or Kumbh Mela. They walked with small bundles on their head. It's and you don't see somebody that you feel is a rich person. You don't see somebody is a poor, or that there is no distinction. That is the belief, the faith. That's something. And these are not just like places of events, but this is like thousands of years of belief, reverence, and that spiritual practice. It moves something in you. It just moves you to see there is something beyond that is, and you feel it there. You just feel it, and everything opens up. Like, we wanted to go here, somebody shows you the way. We wanted to do this, somehow we come to know that you can do it this way. And and that good feel carried on for, like, even now I feel that, like, things are smoother in my life. I want to see but it feels like things are going much smoother. And it's also fascinating that, in Ayodhya, the birthplace, it's Treta Yuga, and, it's, but before current time, yet today there's so much devotion still alive, so much devotion. And then the Kumbh Mela, which draws, it's rooted in that cosmic planetary alignment. And how did they know this? But how people truly believe, and something moves them to really take part in this. And that we were part of this. We felt the same energy, the same divine feeling. And I think I still carry that. I still feel it's with me. That constellation, Jupiter's constellation in Taurus, I guess. How you see that faith, astronomy, mythology, and all human connection all comes together. And that feeling still carries on, that we are all one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The deep belief, yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, I went as a non-believer. I just went for the experience, but I came back understanding that if you really truly go there with faith and bhakti, things can happen. You will feel blessed, and that's the feeling I got when I came back. I'm like, I'm glad I did this trip because it was so worth it. And I came back feeling calm. That was my experience.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like, when we were planning, we initially thought, oh, we can get this Sugam Darshan passes. And we thought it was like, we have to go 8 days before the planned date to get the tickets. And then when we go there, we realized, oh my goodness, we had to go like, 15 days before. So we had no tickets, no nothing. We said, okay, we are here for a reason. I mean, like, our beliefs, even though I'm not a very spiritual person either, but like, we said, okay, I mean, like, we are doing this, let's go ahead and do this. We were willing to wait in long lines because Kumbh Mela attracted so many people that there were long lines. But then when we went there, it was like divine intervention throughout. And like, Bhagwan Ram said, hey, you're here, I'll show you the way.
I'll
And
show you
we,
the path.
and we, I mean, like, I'm still getting goosebumps when I talk about that to people. It's like, okay, you have come here, I'll make way for you. And then we heard about the NRI line, and then we heard about the Aarti. So we actually, saw Ram Lalla like 4 times, literally, going in
Yes.
and out. So, and then it was a miracle to going on to Prayagraj. So many different things have happened. So I won't say I'm more, I mean, I'm definitely more spiritual now, and of course that energy, I'm still carrying the energy with me. I'm big on energy, so there was just so much energy on the air and so much spirituality. So it still gives me a high when I talk about our trip to Ayodhya and Kumbh Mela. So that's my comment on that question.
Yeah. One thing, we saw Ram Lalla 4 times within the same day, morning and
Yes.
evening. So I don't think anybody would have done that. Most probably
Record. It's a
would have
record.
broken the record in doing this. And that is where we say it was every
Worthwhile.
step of the way miraculous, blessed, divine.
Yes. What a divine experience this whole journey must have been. And thank you so much for opening up your hearts to us and sharing all these wonderful, wonderful experiences with us. It makes us really want to go.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, and hopefully
You
Vikram and I can go there. Maybe even together. Who knows? That would
Surely
be
you should.
amazing.
You should.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And
The Discovery's team
Discovery's team, yeah.
doing their yatra.
Absolutely. And I think that just leads me to ask one question about you shared your experience that you felt mentally and spiritually, but as bhakts of Shri Ram, what would you say is one virtue of Shri Ram that incites the most bhakti in you? What is it that resonates within your heart for Shri Ram?
I have a whole different story on this. So, as a kid growing up, I had listened to how Ram was building a bridge on the ocean to reach Sri Lanka because Ravan had captured Sita and taken her there. So little squirrel was trying to help by like rolling in the sand and shaking the sand off of the bridge. So all the other monkeys started mocking it and saying, belittling it. But Lord Ram noticed that. He picked up the little squirrel lovingly and like touched the back of his back of the squirrel. And then today we see those squirrels have 3 lines going across. So it's believed that it is the Rama's, loving hands that have gone over the fur of the squirrel. So what do I understand from this story? It's like love and respect all. Do not belittle anyone. Do not think of anybody as small from size or status. So it's a great takeaway for me.
Beautiful.
And the squirrels in America don't have that 3 lines. This is for a fact. If you go and see the lines on the squirrels here don't have those lines. For me, what truly instills or incites bhakti is when I see the Rama is called Maryada Rama, and he is very dutiful son and a dutiful and very good king. But for me, the whole story always what stuck to me was how Sthita Prajna he was, even when he was being coronated or when he was being sent to the forest, how unwavering and grounded he stayed. And for me, I think that instills bhakti, reverence, and something to kind of feel like a role model, I guess, that are something to follow or imbibe or keep in mind, like follow our, how would you say it?
Yeah.
Keep in ourselves that I should follow that.
Imbibe the qualities into yourself.
Yes, that one quality, yes.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
For me, it is Lord Rama's humility and his consideration to every creature in the world. I mean, in his world at that point of time. So he did what he could do best without antagonizing anybody, but still making sure that his people are, happy and things like that. So so that's what I carry with me about Lord Rama.
Beautiful. I think a lot of those virtues resonate with Vikram and myself, and several of our listeners who know the Ramayana story, and we went through a lot of that before we had you all join us. But he's really a mountain of virtues and endless. Rama's story is endless, and his name is endless, and his glories are endless. So we appreciate and our sincere gratitude on behalf of the entire Divine Discoveries team for Maya, Rekha ji, and Suchi joining us. It means a lot to us, and thank you so much for adding beautiful color and flavor to our episode today, which is dedicated to the glories of Shri Ramachandra. We truly appreciate your presence. Thank you.
And
Thank
on
you,
an
thank you.
auspicious day, happy Ram Navami.
Happy Ram Navami.
Happy Ram Navami.
Happy
Happy
Ram
Ram
Navami.
Navami.
Jai
Thank
Shri
you
Ram.
and Jai Shri Ram. Yeah.
Jai Shri
Jai
Ram.
Shri Ram.
Thank you, thank you. Wow, what a conversation, Vikram.
Absolutely,
Learned so
absolutely.
much,
I'm jealous.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's been on my bucket list, but it's something that I hope I can do in the near future. Get
I think we will. We both will have the chance to do it.
I hope we can do that. Yeah. Like one thing that we heard at the end was how Lord Ram is referred to as Maryada Purushottam, and that means one who understands what righteousness is, who completely embodies that, and who takes every decision within those boundaries, and who's accepted those boundaries, and who takes all those decisions, all his life's decisions based on that, and one who exemplifies these great virtues, and who uplifts and inspires humanity based on what he has accomplished in that avatar. So we were speaking about the Lanka Kand when Ravan was defeated and Sita was released, and they came back to Ayodhya, and then began the Uttarkand, in which we learn, some incidents happen which are very controversial, but any which way it is, it was all meant to happen to teach humanity that a human life is filled with challenges, and we have to face them with the grace and with the faith that God is giving us the strength to face them. We're not alone in this. So that's what we learn. And in the Uttarkand, obviously Shri Ram has his two twin sons born in Sage Valmiki's ashram. So we come full circle to where Sage Valmiki is now actually playing the role of not just writing the Ramayana, but teaching the Ramayana to Lord Rama's sons, Lava and Kush, who were born in his ashram, his hermitage. While Lord Ram was actually ruling over Ayodhya in such a difficult, he had to bring peace, prosperity to everybody. And he ruled for 11,000 years. Isn't that incredible to think about?
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, so 11,000 years was the duration of his reign. And that in his reign as king is popularly known and coined as Rajya. So as we always do, we're going to hear on that subject, on Rajya, what was the scene like? What was the climate like? What was it for the citizens who lived during that time, who experienced life in Rajya? I'll just share the video of Guruji in a satsang where he's talking about this.
Some devotees requested me to tell about Rajya. Therefore, in short, I am quoting from Sage Valmiki. During Rama's rule, the holy Ramayana says, is in Rajya, when Rama was ruling and his power ruled over the world for 11,000 years, that vibration, that power was there. Praharashta budito loka, tushtaha pushtaha sudharbikaha. Praharashtaha budito means everyone is made happy. Everyone is made very, very happy. So praharashtaha budito loka, tushtaha. Everyone is contented with abundance. Pushtaha is abundance, tushtaha is contented. And sudharbikaha, all are following the path of dharma. There was no crookedness when Shri Rama was ruling over the world. Niramayo, in his kingdom, people are free from fear and anxiety. Here, Rogascha means there was no roga, no sickness at all. And Durbhiksha Bhayavarjitha, there was no drought, no famine, no duality at all. During Rama Rajya, Naputra Maranam Kechid, when the parents are there, there is no death of children. When elderly people are there, there is no death of the younger. Drakshanti Purushaha Kvachit. Everyone, none of them had any anxiety that the people younger than themselves or children getting any sickness or dying untimely. And another word is said in Valmiki Ramayana, Naryascha vidhava nityam bhavishyanti pativrataha. All women were following the dharma, pure. And there was no death of the husband to make her the widow. Instead, all women were following the pativrata, the chastity, purity, and praying that they should pass on when the husband is living. They never wanted to survive the death of the husband. In other words, there was no widowhood at all. Nachagnijam bhayam kinchid. Fear was the fear was gone forever. And there was no untimely rain. Everything was timely. Everything was rhythmic when God was on earth. Nachagnijam bhayam kinchid. Napsu majjanti jantavaha. Animals are also fearless. People never used to just for fun hunt or kill. Navatajam bhayam kinchit. There was no tornadoes, no fear of the fire. Navatajam bhaya kinchin. Napijvara kratam tatha. And no one having any incurable type of diseases at all. Nachapikshud bhayam tatra. None had any fear. See, in Kali Yuga, we have exact opposite of all those things, is it not? Everyone has fear, and fear of constant tornadoes or earthquakes or fire. Therefore, we have the fire engine next to our temple. See, always one or the other, constant fear is there. Exact opposite of Treta Yuga is Kali Yuga. Na chapikshud bhayam tatra. During Rama Rajya, there was no fear. Na taskara bhayam. There were no thieves or robbers at all. Everyone in Rama Rajya has so abundance that everyone is keeping some soft drinks, fruit juice, and buttermilk, fruits, requesting, please, someone among you, please come and take. And everyone says, I am full. I am full. Nagarani cha rashtrani. Not only in one area, usually in one county, there is a protection, another is not. Not like this during Rama Rajya. Rama's presence is felt by everybody. Nagarani cha rashtrani. Nagarani means cities. Rashtrani means entire state. Dhana dhanya yutani cha. Everyone, everywhere there is wealth, prosperity, food, abundance. And it was compared, even though it is Treta Yuga, the Silver Age, by the advent of Rama and that Avatara, the Jagat Guru, as long as he was on earth here. Nityam pramuditaha sarve. All are rejoicing. For everyone it was like a festival, constant festival. Just like the days were just like in the Krita Yuga, means the golden age. Ashwamedha shatairishtva tatha bahu suvarnakaihi. 100 Ashwamedha, the horse sacrifice festival. Horse sacrifice means not to kill the horse, but it means the wheat flour, horse images were done. And as per the holy text of the Vedas, the Karma Kanda, pujas were performed. And that wheat flour horse image was offered as an oblation into the fire for the protection of all animal kingdom. Like this, the 97th stanza of the first book of Ramayana discusses Dashavarsha Sahasrani, Dashavarsha Shatani Cha, means 11,000 years. Ramo Rajyamupasitva Brahmalokam Prayasyasi. For 11,000 years, the power of Rama, the kingdom of Rama, and his teachings. During that time, 11,000 years, it was like golden age, like kingdom of heaven on earth. And at the time of departure also, Rama and Shri Krishna never gave up their body here, according to holy scriptures. They came also with the blue body. And whenever they departed, they assumed the Mahavishnu form. This is the saying of Valmiki during the time of Shri Rama.
Wow.
Amazing.
was-
I didn't know. I mean, I could only imagine what it would have been like, but to actually hear it from Guruji was truly special.
Yeah, and Guruji was quoting it directly from Valmiki Ramayana. So all of that was written by Sage Valmiki. And how blessed are we to be able to hear that. And it's, we have the saying today, take me back to
Yeah.
something that we, some great experience we had. Take me back to Rama Rajya.
Yeah, my dad always says, he's like, before I die, I want to see Ram Darbar with my eyes.
Yes.
He always says that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Vikram, it was a blessing once again to be able to record this episode today on Ram Navami. Happy Ram Navami to all our listeners once again. Bhagavan Shri Ram ki jai.
Jai.
And Pavanasuta Hanuman ki jai.
Jai.
Sita Mata ki jai. May all their benevolence and blessings be upon all of us and our listeners. I wish everybody well and hope everybody is peaceful and happy. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Om Shanti.